The call was supposed to end a job, but instead, it opened a door to a truth that would shatter a millionaire's perfect world. Victor Hale checked the time on his luxury watch, jaw tight with irritation. The cleaner hadn't shown up for work again. 3 days. No notice. No explanation. To him, absence meant excuse and excuse meant replacement. With a sharp breath, he tapped her number, already rehearsing the cold, final words. The line connected. But instead of an adult voice, a tiny, trembling whisper slipped through the phone. "Hello, are you my mommy's boss?" Victor froze. His annoyance faltered. "Who is this?" he asked, confused. "I'm Emma," the little voice said. "My mommy won't wake up." Something in her tone, raw fear wrapped in innocence, sent a strange ache through his chest. "What do you mean she won't wake up?" he asked, softer now. "She was tired, she sat on the couch," the girl sniffed. "Now she's very still. She's breathing funny. I'm scared." Victor's heart skipped. The office around him suddenly felt distant, unreal. He grabbed his keys without thinking. "Emma, listen to me. You did the right thing calling. Tell me where you are." As the child slowly gave her address, his world of meetings, deals and profit margins fell away. For the first time in years, something more important than business demanded his attention. And he ran toward it. The drive felt endless, every red light stretching his nerves tighter. Victor barely remembered the last time he had driven himself anywhere in a hurry. His world usually moved on schedules controlled by assistants and drivers. But now, with a frightened child still connected through the phone, he pushed forward himself, guided by a tiny voice shaking with fear. "I can hear sirens," Emma whispered. "That's good," Victor said gently. "Help is coming. Stay right where you are, sweetie." When he finally reached the address, the sight stopped him cold. The building was small and tired, its walls worn by years of struggle. Nothing about it matched the polished world he ruled. Emma opened the door before he could knock. She was smaller than he imagined, barefoot, her eyes wide and searching. "She's inside," she whispered. Victor followed her into a dim living room where time seemed to move slower. Her mother lay on the couch, pale and still, a faint rise and fall at her chest. The room was clean but painfully simple. No luxury, no excess, only survival. The ambulance arrived moments later, and the medics moved swiftly, gently lifting the woman onto a stretcher. "Will my mommy be okay?" Emma asked, clutching Victor's hand with surprising strength. Victor didn't know the answer, but for the first time in years he wanted to believe in one. "She's getting help now," he told her softly. "You were very brave." As the ambulance doors closed, Emma looked up at him with quiet fear. "I don't have anyone else," she said. And in that moment, something inside Victor shifted, something no boardroom victory had ever touched. At the hospital, the bright lights and quiet urgency felt unreal to Victor, like he had stepped into someone else's life. Emma stayed close to him, her small fingers wrapped tightly around his sleeve as if letting go would make everything fall apart again. Nurses moved with calm purpose, and within moments her mother was taken away for care. The waiting room was silent except for the soft ticking of a wall clock. Emma sat beside him, swinging her legs slowly, eyes fixed on the floor. After a long pause she whispered, "My mommy works very hard. She says she cleans big offices so I can go to school someday." Victor felt those words settle heavy in his chest. He remembered the name on the absence report. Just a line of text. Just a problem to remove. He looked at Emma differently now, not as an inconvenience tied to an employee, but as a child carrying the weight of grown-up worries. A doctor finally approached. "She's stable," he said. "Very weak, but she will recover with rest and care." "Your daughter acted quickly." Emma lifted her head in surprise. "I helped." "Yes," the doctor smiled. "You saved her." Emma's face brightened with the smallest, proudest smile Victor had ever seen. And in that smile he felt something unfamiliar rise in him, respect. Not for power. Not for money. But for quiet courage. For the first time in his life, Victor realized the cleaner he was ready to dismiss carried a strength his entire empire could never buy. Hours passed in a quiet blur. Emma eventually leaned against Victor's side, sleep tugging at her eyes, but she fought it with stubborn determination. "I don't want to miss when they tell me about mommy," she murmured. Victor gently lifted her into his arms without even thinking about it. The gesture surprised him as much as it would have shocked anyone who knew him. He, who avoided closeness like a risk, now held the fragile weight of a child as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Emma relaxed against him, trusting without question. When the doctor returned, his expression was calm. "She's resting now." It will take time, but she's out of danger. You can see her briefly. In the quiet hospital room, Victor stood beside the bed where the cleaner lay, monitors humming softly. The woman who worked silently after everyone left the office looked smaller than he imagined, her face pale, her hands rough from years of labor. A wave of guilt washed through him, how easily he had judged her without ever knowing her life. When she slowly opened her eyes and saw Emma in Victor's arms, tears filled them. "I'm sorry," she whispered weakly. "I didn't mean to worry you." Emma shook her head fiercely. "You scared me, Mommy. But I was brave." Victor watched the exchange in silence, feeling a truth settle deep inside him. Strength did not always wear suits, and courage did not always speak loudly. And suddenly, firing the cleaner no longer mattered at all. Days later, when Sophia was strong enough to speak for longer than a few minutes, Victor visited again. This time, Emma ran to him with a smile instead of fear. "Mommy says you're our miracle," she said, proudly taking his hand. Victor felt an unfamiliar tightness in his throat. "Your daughter is the brave one," he replied. Sophia hesitated before speaking, her eyes heavy with unspoken weight. "There's something I never planned to tell you," she said quietly. "But after everything, you deserve to know." Victor listened, unaware that a single sentence was about to rewrite his past. "Years ago," she continued, voice trembling, "before I worked at your company, you helped a stranger outside one of your buildings. You paid for her medicine when no one else stopped." Victor frowned. The memory arose faintly, an impulsive moment long buried beneath years of control. "That woman was me," Sophia whispered. "And Emma is alive today because of that day." Victor felt the room tilt. Emma climbed onto his knee and looked into his eyes with innocent certainty. "Mommy says you saved us before you even knew us." In that instant, the firing call felt like a lifetime ago. And for the first time, Victor understood the shocking truth. His greatest success had nothing to do with money. Victor stepped out of the hospital that evening with a heart heavier and lighter than it had ever been. The city lights no longer looked like trophies of success. They looked like thousands of lives, each carrying unseen battles. For the first time, he didn't rush back to his tower of glass and steel. He went home and sat in silence, thinking of a small girl's brave voice and a mother who had carried her burdens quietly. The next morning, everything changed. Sophia returned to work weeks later, expecting the same routine, the same invisible life. Instead, she was called into Victor's office, her hands trembling, her mind already bracing for bad news. But what she received was not dismissal. It was support, medical care, a promotion to a stable role, and a scholarship fund set up in Emma's name. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to speak. Why would you do all this for us?" Victor's voice was calm, but his eyes held something new. "Because your daughter reminded me who I was before I forgot." That evening, Emma hugged him with the pure joy only a child can give. "You didn't fire my mommy," she said proudly. "You kept our family." Victor smiled, and for once, it was not the smile of a man who had won a deal, it was the smile of a man who had found his way back to his heart. Sometimes the greatest truths don't arrive through meetings or money. They arrive through the voice of a child brave enough to speak.